الحمد وكفى والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. You are welcome once again to another important and interesting, Nasiha section. We are today going to look at the role of religious leaders in nation building. As religious leaders, we are one of the major stakeholders in our own country. And by that important classification of religious leaders, we have so many important responsibilities and roles to play. One of such roles is to be the provider of spiritual guidance and the nurturing of the soul of members of our congregations. As we all know, or as we are all aware, religious leaders help their congregation in imparting moderate ideological creed to members of their congregation. At the same time, they also assist them to demonstrate how the true and only one God, Allah, is to be worshipped. Let us look at the father of monotheism, the father of faith, Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. In Surah Al-Mumtahana, Quran chapter 60 verse 4, Allah says, قَدْ كَانَتْ لَكُمْ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ فِي إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَالَّذِينَ مَعَهُمْ إِذْ قَالُوا لِقَوْمِهِمْ إِنَّا بُرَآهُ مِنْكُمْ وَمِمَّا تَعْبُدُونَ مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ كَفَرْنَا بِكُمْ بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَكُمُ الْعَدَاوَةُ وَالْبَغْضَاءُ حَتَّى تُؤْمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَحْدَهُ. Meaning, Allah says, in Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, you have a role, model. You have him as a role model to emulate. And with those who were with him, when they said to their people that we dissociate ourselves from that which we worship other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that we have set, the barrier between us and you based on your false worshiping of the creator of the whole universe. So we can say clearly that one of the responsibilities or role of religious leader here is to demonstrate and to show how, members of their congregation are supposed, to cultivate this iman, faith in their creator Allah, and how to worship him. That is why you see them leading them in salat, leading them in the Quran recitation, leading them in the way things are being done, especially when it comes to social responsibility. They are the ones that we supervise, wedding, both spouses together or naming ceremony. And even when we all, expire in this world and we are to be taken to our final place of burial, it is also the religious leaders that will also lead, the funeral prayers, among other things. Number two, it is also very important for us to mention that one of their roles is also they serve as a provider of justice, in the community. This is very, very important because religious leaders are supposed to be leaders that will shape the thought and dispositions of members of their congregations or non-members of their congregations in their community as people that stands for justice. And justice, in accordance with Islam or Islamic teachings, does not recognize race, color, or tribe, or language. Justice to humanity is justice to humanity. And that is why when we look at the Quran, especially when we look at Quran chapter 5, verse 8, chapter 4, verse 135, talks about justice. Allah says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu كونوا قوامين لله شهداء بالقسط ولا يجرمنكم شنعان قوم على ألا تعدلوا اعدلوا هو أقرب للتقوى. Allah says, O you who believe in Allah, stand firmly as witnesses for Allah on the path of justice, and do not allow the hatred you have for other people sway you away from being just. But Allah says, be just. That is nearer or closer to piety. And fattakullah, Allah says again, fear Allah. Inna Allah khabirun bima ta'amalun. Allah is going to give us full account of what we have done, or Allah is fully acquainted with our deeds. Furthermore, Let us also remember the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that says sab'atun, that is those 7 people, yudhilluhumullahu fi dhillihi yawma la dhilla illa dhilluhu. Those 7 categories of people that will be under the shade or canopy of Allah on the day of resurrection, when there will be no any canopy except the canopy of Allah. The number 1 on that list is Imamun Adil, a just leader. So it is their responsibility to dispense justice and never to be found wanting in the area of being just among people without any bias for any religious, inclination or social class. Number 3, it is also very important to also mention that religious leaders are also mobilizers. They are mobilizers. Especially, it is their responsibility to mobilize not only their congregational members, but to mobilize people in their community towards the path of doing that which will bring public good to humanity. For example, let us take our nation. If government has a particular policy that is going to impact positively in the life of the citizens, for example, government wants to bring social safety net policy for the people, it is the responsibility, or it is one of the responsibilities of religious leaders to mobilize the people, to key into this social policy of government so that it becomes successful because it is bringing public good to the people. The same thing with payment of taxes. It is part of the responsibility of the religious leaders to mobilize their people to pay their taxes as at when due, because those taxes, when they are going to be deployed, they will be deployed to provide social services that will impact positively in the life of the people. Fourthly, also, religious leaders are also expected to be socializers. That is, they are supposed to also participate in the process of socializing, orientating and reorientating our people, especially now when the world is coming to an end. We are in a period where some people are trying to change the narrative to say that a man can marry a man, a woman can marry a woman. And then what we know is that it is a man marries a woman or a woman marries a man, not the same sex marrying one another. It is part of the religious responsibility in the area of socialization for them to be able to orientate the people, for them to understand that this is the way the Creator of man wants us to live our life. Part of their responsibility or role is also to be an advocate of human rights. Religious leaders are supposed to also preach and teach members of their congregation or their community the act of respecting the rights of human beings, irrespective of which faith they belong to, because it is an inalienable right given to man by the Creator of man. So part of their responsibility is to ensure that the rights of people are never trampled upon. Also, it is important to mention that part of their role or responsibility is that they are supposed to be peace builders and reconciliators. They are supposed to be people that will champion peaceful coexistence in our community, because it is the duty of religious men to ensure that peace permits not only their immediate environment, but permits the world. Because the Creator of man is the creator of the environment, and he wants us to live in this environment in a peaceful way. And that is why Quran chapter 8 verse 61 says, وَإِن جَنَهُ لِلسَّلْمِ فَجْنَهَا وَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. That if people are inclined towards peaceful coexistence, then you too should not restrain yourself, but enjoin them, on the path of peaceful coexistence. And then put your trust in Allah, because Allah has the power of seeing and hearing. Finally, also, it is important for us to mention that part of their responsibility is to preach tolerance. Not only preaching tolerance, but they must also work it. Because nowadays we are in a community where people don't want to tolerate one another. It is not compulsory that we must all have the same view, the same perspective on issues. But what is important is for us to show understanding, to show empathy, to also listen to the other's view. Even though you don't agree with that view, but you should be able to demonstrate that, yes, I understand what you are saying, but I do not agree with that. But that doesn't take away the fact that we should never, demonstrate tolerance among ourselves. When we do this among others, we are leading a community where our people will be able to live together as one and not as enemies. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu.